welcome to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast. We're talking about all things Star Wars. My name is James.
And I'm David.
And if you're watching us on YouTube right now, you'll notice David has an awesome cup right here. And that's really cool, man. I'm really jealous that you have one. Looks really, really great, though. I love it.
Yeah, my aunt, Gabby, kudos to her. She makes tumblers, and I requested a Cantina Alien tumbler. And I sent her all the pictures of Hammerhead and everyone else in the cantina that I wanted. And she messaged me and she said, well, those images didn't transfer very well, so I didn't do those. And I was like, okay. She was messaging me on Facebook Messenger. And I said, okay. Well, I mean, okay, so
what does work?
I was really waiting for her to type the next thing. And she was like, well, here's your cup. And she showed me the cup. And it was all black, and it has like the Starfield glitter in it. And I was like, okay, well, that's cool. I'll just take that. That looks pretty rad. And then she's like, well, I did this instead. And she lifted our logo, the new logo, Star Wars Stuff Podcast, and put it on the tumbler. And it looks really good.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
maybe we should start making those. Would y'all want to see some of those? That'd be pretty cool, right? If we could sell some tumblers. Maybe.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
That'd be pretty great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks amazing. It looks really, really great. And also we have a new logo. Hope you like it. We're giving a little tribute there to Peter Mayhew and the amazing, character he brought to life with Chewbacca. So I hope you all like our new logo we got going on all over the place. And also want to give a shout out to our we had a big bump in our numbers, which I know it's not nice to brag about, but and Stitcher, we had a nice crowd from Stitcher listen to us, so that was really nice. If y'all are from Stitcher, thank you for sticking with us, and hopefully we can give you great content each week from now. So yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah, it was incredible to see everyone from Stitcher jump on board, and we had a huge amount of people
we were like,
listen on May the 4th, Revenge of the 5th, especially, and I was like, wow, that's incredible. We just saw the explosion, and
it was pretty great. I'm pretty happy about that. It was a nice little May the 4th. Okay, so this week, Disney and Lucasfilm announced some really, really, really big news, which we were not. I wasn't expecting this news to come out until after.
When did the news drop?
It dropped on Tuesday or it was.
Why not drop it on May the 4th?
Why not drop it on? I think because I know because Disney was they were already doing something. Disney was that week.
They announced some YA books, right?
Yeah. Well, no. On May the 4th they did. I'm saying Disney was already doing something this week to where they said, hey, here are the dates for Star Wars. They had some event that they did it at.
Okay, and then it hit the public later on.
Then everyone was talking about it. So yeah, in case you don't know, Disney announced the new trilogy in the years these movies will be coming out, and it is the 2022, 2024, and 2026. So we have a whole new trilogy coming out in the coming years, and it's kind of exciting to know that it is happening. You know what I mean? It's one of those things that we always talked about. There is going to be another trilogy, but they only said one trilogy. They didn't say the two trilogies that they have been saying they're going to make. Whose trilogy is this, and what's going to happen to the other trilogy? What do you think?
So in the beginning, they announced a series of films for Benioff and Weiss, and you don't think trilogy, you think more like 4 or 5 films.
Yeah.
So it seems like maybe Benioff and Weiss's series of films has now become a trilogy of films. And the big question is, okay, so what about Rian Johnson's? Because we're all assuming these are Benioff and Weiss films, because that seems to be more set in stone, and the direction that Lucasfilm is going after the episodes, after the saga has ended. So it's like, I wonder, are we going to get another announcement? Because now with Disney's Fox acquisition, they now need to be making money off the Avatar films, which will play the Decembers between the 22, 24, 26 years. So where does that leave Rian Johnson? Is he on hiatus for the moment? Because I don't think after what they did with the Last Jedi box office, then Solo box office, they want to release 2 films per year.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, okay, so they want to not saturate the market as much with Star Wars films and have that year break, and maybe they'll see elevated numbers. Personally, I don't think so. I think we could do a Star Wars film every December, and I think that's time enough enough breathing room for general audiences and have that tradition reignited. And it's just a very, very interesting situation for Rian Johnson.
I think a lot of this is going to go to Disney Plus. I think the Star Wars stories may end up just going straight to Disney Plus, and we may still get those Star Wars films Christmas, but it looks like we may get them only on the streaming service. Which, you know, I'm a little upset about that, but I'm also pretty okay with that. You know what I mean? To know like every Christmas, all I got to do is turn on my Apple TV, and there's gonna be a new Star Wars movie that's gonna be released. You know,
that would be a really great tradition. Christmas morning, a new Star Wars limited series that you can watch.
Yes,
Christmas present for everyone.
That would be great. I think and it looks like that's what's gonna happen with Rian Johnson's and the new. I mean, because I know they're still going to keep doing the stories. They're not going to stop doing them. So I know Solo didn't scare them that much to like be like, no, we're not doing any more of these. So, and somebody else pointed out, they're like, they only said the trilogies. They didn't say any of the other ones. And I think that's for a reason. I think that's because they're not going to release those in theaters anymore. I think Solo scared Disney, scared Lucasfilm, to where now they're just going to focus those on the streaming service, which, hey, streaming services are actually doing really, really good now. Like, that's what the preferred, video and, experience. Yeah, that's what people like, And I was writing something the other day, and I'm not trying to brag, but I was like, man, if I could pitch this to a studio, who would I pitch it to? And I started thinking, I was like, well, I wouldn't go to ABC, NBC, or any of those. I would go straight to Netflix, or Hulu, Amazon. So that's just the way everything is going now. So we are almost, let's say, like 98% sure this is the Benioff and Weiss trilogy, and we're gonna have the Avatar films in between, which I think Avatar kind of messed everything up for Star Wars, because we could have had that tradition of Star Wars, but now with Avatar and James Cameron's crazy, four more movies coming out, it's gonna shift everything, because he starts in 2021 if I'm not mistaken. So he's gonna start it off. So yes, everybody, every Christmas starting from 2021 until 2026, you're gonna have a huge movie at the end of the year. And just so we're all clear, and somebody commented in our YouTube, and I was like, I want to say something to them, but I don't want to say
Never read the comments.
Never read the comments on YouTube, but they were like, the saga ends until 2022, and I was like, well, the Skywalker saga is ending this year,
right? So
this in 2022 is completely different from anything we've ever seen. Like, they may mention the name Skywalker, but I don't think there's going to be no characters from the movies that are going to probably be in these films.
And I'm still obsessed with Rian Johnson's idea of totally being divorced from everything that we've seen, but just in the universe of Star Wars. The possibilities are endless. I think that's where he would excel. And
I think, like I said, I think those are going to be on the streaming service. I think that's what they're going to do with it.
I don't know, because Rian Johnson's a film director. I don't think he would go back on, hey, I was promised a trilogy in the theater. That's what I'm doing. I think he's a film director.
Yeah,
he's not a streaming limited series type of guy. There's some guys that are hybrids, like Jon Favreau. He's definitely a hybrid. He definitely wants to do anything and everything he can Star Wars. And that's what I love about him. But it's not to say that if we do get multiple Star Wars stories on Disney Plus streaming, that we can't see them in the theater too. They have events where, like the Fathom events, if it's like a 6-episode, hopefully Obi-Wan limited series, it's 6 hours long or so. We could go to the theater and still see it on the big screen. That's a possibility.
True. But it just seems really strange that Lucasfilm and Disney would only say these 3 years. Because it's like, are they saying, okay, in 2028 is when the new trilogy starts? You know what I mean? Like, is that what they're going to do? Are they going to wait that long?
It could be for shareholder purposes as well, because the shareholders need to know what if their investment is still like on track, so to speak. But not really, so to speak. But they have to announce what their plans are for the shareholders.
All right, I guess that makes sense. It's just like I said, it just made me a little nervous because they didn't say whose, and they only said 3. 3 years, unless Disney was like, hey, we're gonna have 2 movies in 2022, 2 movies in 20, but they're not gonna do that. So hey, it's pretty exciting though. It's really exciting news for us Star Wars fans, and Game of Thrones is wrapping up now, and everyone's getting really, really excited about these, the way the show is going and how big it is. And I'm trying to get everybody on board, saying, hey guys, if you love Game of Thrones, just get ready, because in a couple of years there's gonna be a whole new Star Wars film. And what's really, really cool is all those friends who keep always saying to me, I've never seen a single Star Wars film. I'm gonna be like, just wait until 2022. You could start over like we all are, because that's what's gonna happen. We're all gonna be starting over from scratch with these things, and I'm just looking forward to what it's gonna be. What else was I gonna say?
Also, so 2022, 2024, 2026, those are the years for the movies. So does that also mean those will be the New Year's for Celebration?
Maybe. That'd be great.
Would you want the hiatus until 2022 after next year's 2020 Anaheim Celebration?
I mean, it's just 2 years. You know what I mean? So yeah. I think it'll be all right. Well,
our wallet will breathe a little bit.
Yes, our wallet will breathe a lot easier between now and,
Right.
I mean, then, except for now, because the tickets are going to go on sale probably in like August or September this year for
we got to jump on that.
Yeah, so.
And then, of course, Reed Pop, Lucasfilm is going to be like, oh, we've recognized you, and here's media badges. And it's like, why did we pay for tickets?
Yeah, I know, right? That's what they did. So, never mind. We're not going to get into that. Anyways, I was going to say, hey, if you hope you enjoyed that story that Joseph said. And hopefully that story doesn't.
And I think I want to clarify something.
Okay. What you
got? I listened to Joseph's podcast, and the thing about that whole situation was that we were supposed to be a 6-person group, and the rules were if one person won the lottery, the entire group got in to whatever panel.
Yeah.
So there were technical difficulties on that end of us being an entire group. So there were supposed to be 6 of us. For some reason, only 3 of us were able to join a group, and whoever won the Skywalker, the Rise of Skywalker panel lottery, episode 9, it would have been all 6 of us anyways. So in the end, all 6 of us attended. So it was supposed to happen anyways.
Yeah.
And after that, everyone that won a panel just attended, and no one else tried to get in. I mean, we were just so hyped for episode 9, and
that was the panel to be at.
Yeah.
Was did I ever tell you the people, the gentleman in the next to us, he was like, so is this one a big deal?
I was like, oh my god.
And I looked at him like, what did you just ask me? Is it a big deal was this like a big one that we made it into? I was like, this was the panel to be in, man. And he was like, oh, okay, well, good. I guess we got lucky. And I'm looking at him like, what are you talking about? Why are you asking me?
See, that's the negative side of the lottery system, because people that spent all the money saved for years just to get there lose the lottery to a fan that's not as aware of their surroundings and
really,
the situation.
Really yep.
And it's like someone lost out because a very, very hardcore My Life is Star Wars fan lost out on the lottery to a fan that's not as in tune and has not spent all the money that he has. And it's like, oh man, it's just, yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to everything.
Oh yeah, very true. I mean, we didn't have to wait in line overnight. I mean, I'll say I did enjoy sleeping in the condo that we were at.
I mean, it was raining, snowing, freezing.
So we did. It was pretty nice.
Yeah.
Last night before I went to bed, my wife's out of town, so I'm like, So before I go to bed, I'm like, I'm gonna watch the trailer one more time. I'm gonna crank it up, and I watched the Rise of Skywalker trailer just one more time, and man, that trailer is just it still gives me chills every time I watch that thing. It's like, my gosh. And Star Wars Theory, he just put out a video. And it's something we've all been talking about lately. I mean, not lately, but we've all known, which was Lucas was brought in to help with 9.
Mm-hmm.
And he's saying like they did it because they had to clean up 8, what 8 did. And I'm like, I think people are still looking at 8 as it ruined everything. And I'm like, 8 didn't actually ruin a single thing with what you're going to do with 9. 9 is still going to be an amazing film. and 8 just made your characters a little bit more grounded. That's I don't think. I mean, are you on board with the whole like they had to bring him back because 8 messed everything up for Star Wars, and it's like, but did it really mess up everything for Star Wars? I don't think it messed up a single thing for Abrams. I mean, we've talked about this before, but
yeah, it's such an interesting thing that exists because you can make arguments for both sides of the coin, really. I mean, I can see Johnson being given carte blanche to do whatever he wants and it really not affecting Colin Trevorrow's at the time, episode 9. But then I can see, people within Lucasfilm, the creative, maybe didn't approve of what Johnson did and maybe had Trevorrow's treatment and knew what was supposed to happen and it interfered and Trevorrow would have to change it up. But Kathleen Kennedy got rid of Trevorrow and brought in JJ, and then JJ came in, and we may never know what the state of mind Lucasfilm and all the creative had for episode 9 in regards to the cause and effect of what The Last Jedi had on the trilogy. But I mean, you can look at it both ways, really. I'm constantly
that's
thinking.
Very true. Yeah, that's very true.
I'm constantly thinking, what is the situation? Was Kathleen Kennedy just tremendously happy with The Last Jedi, and everyone else in the story group, like they say, they really like The Last Jedi, and you hear other podcasters and people like state the facts and state the meanings behind what happened in The Last Jedi and make very valid points. And was it just one of those situations where it was great on paper for everyone, but then a big chunk of the fandom just didn't approve of what was on screen? I mean, we might be analyzing this for the rest of our lives.
And I know, and Joseph's not here, so we can talk about it. Because every time we talk about Last Jedi, Joseph's like, all right, guys, you got to stop doing it. But the thing with The Last Jedi was it was such a huge shift in Star Wars. And I don't know, for me, like I said, I don't think anything that Johnson did in The Last Jedi messes with any of the story.
And I'm pretty sure that episode 9 is going to prove out that theory.
Yeah.
Okay. Episode 9 is just going to... I mean, we always talk about that there was no plan, but there was an type of plan in place. I mean, think about it. JJ got the gig for episode 7. He thought about the rest of the trilogy. He had to have.
And they all discussed it. And even Kennedy said, we all discussed it from the beginning. So, and it was like, all right, Johnson's coming in, and they told Johnson, all right, so this is where the movie has to start because this is where I ended it. And it's like, well, okay, so then let's go from here. Okay, at 9, this is what we're going for. So whatever you do in the movie, we have to get to this spot for 9. And so Johnson was kind of like, okay, I got you. And I think that was pretty much the meeting was, this is what we have. This is where you have to start the movie. This is where you have to end the movie. And then this is where we're going to go. And we can't give you all the stuff, but this is kind of where it's going to go. And Johnson said, okay. So he had the guidelines and he wrote the movie. It comes out and everybody's like, whoa, what was that? And nobody was really on board. But now that we're looking and now that we're hearing stuff, now people are starting to go, oh man, maybe Johnson wrote what he did because, like I said, that was what he was given and he had to write it. And I'll always go back to, I love The Force Awakens. Force Awakens is a great film, but you literally ended on a cliffhanger, literally on a cliff. Where else do you start the movie? How much further in, like, imagine if the opening of 8 happens and we never see the interaction with Rey and Luke. And it's like a story you hear about later on. Like, well, yeah, when I came up to him, I gave him the lightsaber and this happened. We'd all be like, well, that was cheap. I really wanted to see what happened next. So Johnson literally had to start the movie, like a minute after The Force Awakens? So, I don't know. Anyways.
Yeah, Star Wars is just an entirely different animal as far as films and fandom goes because, I mean, it's a lot of people's childhoods and lives and the reason why they live, I mean, to a lot of people. And it's like, if they didn't like The Last Jedi, I mean, there's a severe reaction there. You know?
Very true, very true.
And it's tough for me personally to pull myself out and say, okay, well, these are just films and it's okay. this thing happened, and okay, it happened. It was the director's choice, and it makes sense for the narrative. But then it's like, I wouldn't have done that. Why did that happen?
I mean, there's a ton of things. Even in the other movies, you know, like, there's things that happen that you're like, oh, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that. Yeah. So I'm reading this book right now called George Lucas: A Life. I'm almost done with it. Mm-hmm. It's an incredible book. If you haven't, read it. It's great. Get the audiobook and just listen to it. It's amazing. I think it's the guy who does the voice is the same guy who narrates the documentary Empire of Dreams. So it feels like you're just watching a documentary, and it's amazing. Well, anyways, so Lucas, when he was writing Empire Strikes Back, when he started writing it, he didn't know what to do with Vader, because at that time, Vader was still two different. Anakin and Vader were two different people.
Yeah.
And you hear that, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, it's almost like with this trilogy where they had an idea, but the execution of a lot of the stuff, Lucas didn't know what to do. So I know you said they didn't have a plan, but a lot of those people who said they didn't know they don't know what they're doing with this trilogy. It's like, well, Lucas didn't know what he was doing with his first trilogy. He was writing that thing like, what if I do this? Yeah, that's a pretty good idea. Like, oh, I'll try this. And then he was like, Luke has a twin sister somewhere in the galaxy. I know she has a twin sister. Like, that was what he had from the beginning. And then when he got
like, what do you got, Lucas? And then, there's a twin sister somewhere?
Yeah. He was like, well, they're going to go... on the last movie, he's going to go look for his twin sister. Like, oh, okay, cool. And then it was kind of like, well, hey, I got something really convenient. What if we've always known who the twin sister was? And then, boom, Leia's... Because he even threw it in there at Empire. No, there was another. But he didn't... Like, he thought that was the twin sister in the other part of the galaxy.
When you think it through, it sounds like such a schlocky type of, like, way to, like... make one of the greatest franchises ever.
And it looks like he did do that with a lot. But,
like, I don't want to cast anyone new.
Carrie Fisher.
Carrie Fisher's there.
She's great.
Good enough, yeah.
She's wonderful. But it's amazing to see how he wrote it and how he really got lucky, really lucky. And plus, Lawrence Kasdan came in and also it helped him really shape it. And it's like, geez, man, like a lot of those things we all know and love, he was just kind of like, well, okay, yeah, this sounds like a pretty good idea. And then he would write it down, and then when we go to the movie theaters, we're like, oh my gosh, that's the best thing in the world. So I often look at that and look at the new trilogy like, man, they kind of did the same thing. I mean, it looks like Abrams and Kennedy maybe had more written out of what they wanted to do, as opposed to what Lucas did back in 70s. I mean, all through the 70s, man, when he was writing.
So right, when you look back at it, it seems like Abrams might have had written more for his trilogy than Lucas wrote for.
I'm 100%
as far as like filmmaking and story aspects. Even though Lucas did write so much stuff that wasn't included in the final films,
he claimed he had enough movies. I forget how the amount of movies he said he could have done on Star Wars. I mean, it was incredible to like read through and hear some of the, like, he's like, he had a character named Mace not Windu, it was Mace something, who's a part of this, and they go over here and they do this. You have Cloud City, and then it all leads to the Death Star, and the sixth movie that's the Death Star, and then he goes, no, what if I bring the Death Star to here, and they go on Cloud City to rescue the princess, and then wait, what if it's on the Death Star they go to? So the Cloud City's not there anymore, so he moves Cloud City away. And to hear all these ideas, and it's like, man, he was able to go back and be like, he had a whole catalog of ideas that he was able to grab and throw and put places.
Yeah, he had millions of puzzle pieces.
Mm-hmm. He just didn't know how to put it together.
Yeah, putting it together is the key.
And what's really crazy about George Lucas, and if you read his book, he does not like writing. I mean, even though he
hates it. I know that for a fact. It,
and I did not know that. I always thought Lucas was like
writing all the time.
Yeah,
No.
He hates it.
I know he loves animation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he loves documentary filmmaking,
and he loves editing. Editing was like his thing. Like he wanted to edit, and then he's like, writing. No, I don't want to write. Directing. I don't want to direct. I'll direct. I'll help other people direct, meaning he'll just jump in and direct.
Did you hear the story when Ron Howard came up to him on American Graffiti when he said, I'm interested in directing. Do you have any advice for me?
What did he say?
I'm paraphrasing here.
Okay.
But it was hilarious. Like in George Lucas deadpan, he's like, well, you want to try and get an animation so you don't have to deal with any actors. And he was telling his actor on American Graffiti this.
He hates
It's like, oh my gosh. I think that's somewhere that I'm not sure where I saw it. It's an old documentary where Ron Howard is saying that as an old man, as an older director,
as Ron Howard,
as Ron Howard, Apollo 13, Ron Howard, yeah.
It's I went back and I watched American Graffiti again, and I was like, man, this movie. If you've never seen American Graffiti, I highly recommend watching that movie because it was George Lucas's first big hit that he had, and it's such an incredible. And plus, Ron Howard's in there, and how amazing was it when they're like Solo? Ron Howard's directing, and it was like that is the most amazing story I've ever heard. To have him come back, full circle, and do this movie, and that's why he hired Kershner because Kershner was good with actually talking to the actors, which is what. And
he was his professor at USC.
He was one of the like overseers there at USC.
He wasn't a professor.
He wasn't a professor.
Oh, okay.
I think he was at that time when he went to USC. Irvin Kershner was like the alumni because Kershner had actually gone on to do television and like a movie. And all the guys at USC was like, "Whoa, Irvin Kershner, man, that's amazing."
And you see Kershner do like interviews and stuff for Star Wars, and he just seems like a cool dude.
Yeah, he was.
He seems like he got it. He was very kind of laid back, and he was just like go with the flow type of mentality.
And that's what Lucas did not like about him at first, because Lucas wanted Empire to be shot quickly, and Kershner had done television. So he goes, "Okay, I need you to do what you do on television in this movie, man. We need to keep going." But he didn't anticipate Kershner actually sitting there talking to the actors, for them to delve into the characters, which is what makes Empire Strikes Back the best of the movies, was how well the story is and how well the performances are in that film. And I was like, man, and then he wanted him to do Empire, but Kershner was like, I don't want to be a George Lucas, director.
Yeah, he's like, how can you improve on perfection?
Yeah, it's like there's no way. And so,
and then when he revealed what Empire was, and he was like, I was so thrilled that it wasn't going to be just a direct duplicate of the first film.
And it's amazing. Irvin Kershner was awesome. They have a shirt that says directed by Irvin Kershner. I want to get that shirt because it's just like, man. I wanted to have it for Celebration, but I didn't have a chance to. But anyways, that book, like I said, is really fascinating to see the process of George Lucas's methods of filmmaking, what he was really trying to do, and how he met Rick McCallum at the part of the book, which is really funny to say when you read a biography, when he met Rick McCallum and they're getting the prequels going, and Rick McCallum, the best yes man in history, man. And I'm talking, if you want to make a movie, make sure you have a producer like Rick McCallum, man, because that guy, he made sure Lucas had everything he needed to make the prequels. I mean, he didn't say no to him once, I don't think. It's just like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. But anyways, so yeah,
he's like, you want to stop the movie in the middle of the movie for a pod race? Let's do it. Yeah, sounds fantastic.
It sounds like it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Sounds effing amazing.
I was hoping he would be at Celebration.
I wonder where he is now.
I think he's still probably just he's living life, man. Like, he has so much money now because of Star Wars.
Wearing sunglasses indoors.
Smoking a cigarette. Yeah, man, he's great. But anyways, so what we were starting with was how people said this trilogy didn't have a plan. It looks like they in fact did have a plan.
Yeah. And
it looks like some of the steps that Johnson took were not what people were thinking, but now we're kind of going, yeah, maybe those were the right steps. Have you been seeing Johnson's Twitter exchange with people about who are like dogging on him, like, man, you can't introduce a villain and then just kill him off with no payoff.
Yeah, you can.
And then he was like, yeah, you're right. I mean, and he posted a picture.
You're right.
No.
He's just trolling him. Oh, you're absolutely right.
He posted a picture of that giant chasm there and the Return of the Jedi and the Emperor being thrown. He's like, yeah, you're right, because they introduce a villain at the very he's like, yeah, you can't just introduce somebody and then just kill them off. Oh wait, they already did. They did it already. And that's one thing someone else wrote, and they said nobody really remembers that they legit introduced the Emperor in Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, and they killed him off, and everyone was okay with that. No one back in the 80s was like, so what was the point, man? Like, we didn't have no backstory to this guy. He just dies. Like, that was dumb. We keep hearing about the Emperor for the first movies, and then he dies. No one made a big deal about that. But now, modern age, we're all spoiled now, I guess. Snoke dies. We're like, really? After all that, Snoke's dead? This movie sucks. And everyone just like, knocked it, but it's like, man, they did it already. I mean, it's
See, that was one of the really nice subversions that I did like.
I love
Snoke.
that.
Spoilers for The Last Jedi.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, what are you doing
probably
listening to
should
this
be listening
podcast?
or watching on YouTube. But yeah, I mean, when he died, I was like, yes. And then Rey caught the saber.
Oh my!
And then they
gosh.
just looked at each other, then went back to back. I was like, oh yes, this is gonna be
That was
bad.
I wanted to yell, but like I said, I had a really subdued crowd when I went to go see the Rise of Skywalker. I mean, the Rise of Sky. I just read your shirt, The Last Jedi, and I was like, I'm all like gasping and everything, and I look around, everybody's just like nobody, and I'm like, man, which is okay. So we watched Endgame. We all went to go see Endgame.
Yeah.
Like the very first showing
Yeah.
that you could see Endgame, we watched it.
Yeah.
The theater was going nuts. It
Yeah.
was amazing. I was like, that was a good movie experience. And I asked friends later who watched it afterward, and I said, did the crowd yell? And they're like, no, nobody said. I was like, oh my
Wow.
gosh. And so it's weird to say, but with a lot of these movies, you have to have a good crowd. If you don't have a good crowd, it kind of ruins the moment for you. And like I said, I'm watching The Last Jedi, and I'm gasping, I'm yelling, and I'm almost in tears watching this movie. And I look around, and no one's reacting to this movie at all. And I'm like, what is going on here, man?
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, Snoke dying in The Last Jedi, I was so happy. I was like, thank God, because I don't want to have to go through this whole, like, they're going to be explaining more and more who this villain is. And now that we realize what the overall we don't know what the overall story is.
Yeah, we're just kind of assuming that Palpatine was a puppet master. Yeah.
Now that we kind of have the Palpatine thing, it's like, man, that was amazing that they killed Snoke off. And now we're going to find out everything in the next movie. Man. Okay, so one of our listeners pointed out first, or one of your sources said, that somebody has been edited out of the shot of all of them there at the end of the trailer looking on the Death Star. And one of our listeners asked us, who do you think it is and why do you think they were edited out? So everyone's, of course, thinking it's Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren is edited out. What do you think?
I think that that's the highest percentage character that was edited out. But, I mean, it's tough to say. Because you look at all the, I guess the best example right now at this point in time is the Marvel films. The Marvel films, they have trailers where there's scenes and not quite, well, there is a bit of editing in them. And then when you see the film, it's not what the trailer was.
Yeah.
So that's the theory that, okay, well, someone else is in that negative space where nothing is there. You see Chewie and 3PO and BB-8 and Dio, but you don't, there's
a huge section.
area.
Yeah. I think it's Jar Jar. I'm just kidding. No, I know Colin would be like, "Yes, I told you it's Jar Jar." God. So we're gonna release segue. We're gonna release a little commentary we did of episode 1. We recorded the first half in Chicago. We're gonna record the second half before the movie comes out. But man, Colin was cracking us up with the whole Jar Jar. It's Jar Jar. Man, just think about it, man. Jar Jar's the key there. Anyways. But it could either be Kylo Ren. It could also be it could be anybody. It could even be
a brand new character.
It could be a brand new, but I don't know. Yeah, maybe it could be a brand new character. I was thinking, what if it's freaking Warwick Davis as the Ewok, like chilling there.
Whoa.
Can you
Wicket Chief
there.
Wicket
Yeah.
on Endor pointing.
Oh, I got chills.
To the
I
Death
got
Star.
chills, man. Can you imagine that though? Like, and then one of those things, one of the things in my head, I'm like, man, why didn't they just show it in the trailer? Like, we all would have lost our. I think I know why they didn't show it in the trailer, because we all would have yelled and not heard what Luke said. As it was, we still didn't really hear what Luke said in the trailer. But it was one of those things where if they showed it, we all would have lost our minds. And I think that was one of the reasons why they do it, and two, because it's going to be an awesome reveal when we see who it is. So Kylo Ren's kind of the top dog we're thinking of who is there. I'm thinking it's maybe even, maybe it's even Leia. Leia's there. I'm thinking maybe that'd be crazy if it's on Endor and it's freaking Wicket there, looking. That'd be amazing if that was the case. And he leads them there and he goes, he tells them that's where it is. That's where it all, ended. And there, man, what are they doing at the Death Star though? Man, God, so many questions, so many different ideas for this movie, The Rise of Skywalker, and man, I'm just so pumped for this film.
So the interesting thing I think about when you say the word Endor, people think the place where the last battle happened with the Ewoks and the rebellion. But that's really not Endor, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the forest moon of
Endor. Yeah.
Endor, which is a larger planet. And of course, if that's the second Death Star from Return of the Jedi that crashed down, it would have crashed down on the bigger overall planet, which is Endor. And I'm looking at the data bank right now for Endor, and the terrain is grasslands, what we saw, and mountains.
Okay.
Doesn't mention oceans, but you'd figure there'd be some type of ocean or something. So
so they could even have a moment in the film where they say, like, this is where the battle took place, but all the debris fell over here, and they could point. Because man.
Because you would think that grasslands, there's not very much of that on in the forest moon of Endor.
Yeah.
Because it's called a forest moon, and most planets, and I guess moons maybe, are one type of kind of climate geography.
Okay, yeah. Man, that'd be, oh my gosh. Yeah. I want to hear that conversation. And this movie looks like it's a classic adventure movie where they're going to be looking for stuff, and they're going
on a quest.
They're going to go on a quest, and I think they're going to be finding stuff from all the films, and it's all going to start get tied together in this one film. And it's like, this is the best Star Wars film you could possibly imagine. What you got?
It's kind of like, well, I love what Endgame did, and they pulled from other movies. There was callbacks, payoffs. If they do that in the Rise of Skywalker, that would be great. I would be very happy with that.
So last week I mentioned if I was running Lucasfilm, which I'm not for great reason, because I'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing. If I were Lucasfilm, I would be releasing a trailer in front of Lion King this summer. A trailer, or maybe like a teaser, almost like the Chewie We're Home, because the trailer we got at Celebration was, in my opinion, still the Finn popping his head up and then boom, and like you just see images, you just see this. I think they should release one more teaser with more of a nostalgic feel for Star Wars to get everyone kind of hyped. Like, this story has been going for over 40 years, and we're going to see the ending of it, because a lot of people aren't putting that together, that this is the final of the Skywalker stories, you know.
That is true.
I think Lucasfilm needs to start pushing that. I think Lion King would be the best time to have a trailer for everybody to be like, oh man, like, dude, this could be something special. And then in November you release October you release the trailer with your tickets, because man, they have to start promoting this thing amazingly now. And it looks like they're just kind of like, we'll be all right.
Yeah, like back in the 90s, they'd promote a film like 1-2 years in advance. You'd see a trailer for a film, it's like next year.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we gotta wait till next year. But now it seems like with the last couple episodes, it seems like they start heavily promoting it when that last trailer comes out in October. And it's like, then that's when the big push comes, because they sell all the tickets then. The tickets go on sale. Servers go down.
Yeah.
Fandango goes down. But allegedly they improved their stuff. And which
Maybe.
It did work for a little bit for when I bought the tickets at Endgame.
Yeah, I don't know how you did it, man, but you did it.
I set alarms for all kinds of times and just try and check it.
Yeah. But yeah, dude. And like, I remember when Force Awakens was coming out, I started getting kind of nervous because they hadn't released anything until Force Friday, and then Kathleen Kennedy had said from now on it's going to be nothing but Star Wars. And they did a really good push for the Force Awakens. And they did the same thing for the Last Jedi, but I think for the Rise of Skywalker they need to change that up for the hype. I think the hype needs to be there for the Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, I think once we hit Triple Force Friday,
that's too long, man. I think that's too long for us to.
I don't think so. Well, for us, it's.
For us,
it seems like a long time, but I think for the general public, they're going to be inundated, I think, with Star Wars stuff in on the shelves everywhere. Merch for Episode 9 is going to be everywhere, and that'll be the initial general public push. And that'll be when exactly?
It's in October, I believe.
October? Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you'll get all the merch for the video game. The Mandalorian's going to be big, and then the last episode.
Man, see, I love it, but I also would love for them to have something for us this summer. I think not just because I want to see it, but because I want I want people to be as excited for this film
Yeah.
as I am, because I'm like, I'm telling all my friends, and they're all like, well, look what Endgame did. Endgame did this. They built up to this. I was like, well, Star Wars has been doing that since 1977. And they're like, oh, whoa, really? I was like, yes. I was like, it's the same story.
Yeah.
You know, where this is the climax of the story. This has never been done before in movie history, and that's how they need to be promoting this thing. And they're not. It looks like they're just kind of gonna do what they did with The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens, where like, hey, here's a trailer, here's another trailer, here are the tickets, and here's our promotional for it. It's like, no, you need to have people pumped the whole year. And I think Lion King is kind of like the big movie they should do it with, because
Yeah.
I don't know.
Lion King is going to make all the money.
Toy Story 4 is gonna make all the money too.
No, I think Lion King's going to make more money than Toy Story 4.
Jeez, Favreau,
Yeah.
you're awesome. All right, before we, I don't know, not even before we wrap it up. Okay, so Mark Hamill posted a picture that someone had shared to him of Harrison Ford, Billy D. Williams, Carrie Fisher, and him in the cockpit of the Falcon.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, what could have been?" And I was like, "Man!" And then he tried to backtrack, say, "This is all I meant, because I would have loved to have like been with him. I'm not bashing the movies, but it really looked like he was bashing the films."
Yeah.
Do you think he was bashing the films? And two, how do you feel about what he tweeted?
I think at this point, Mark Hamill's just gonna. He's that uncle at the family get together that just says whatever's on his mind, you know. So it's like, I mean, yeah, you can take it as bashing, but then you can take it as, I mean, this is what I really hope for. I mean, he is a fan. He does have ideas just like the rest of us, and I think the fans love him for that. And on the flip side, it does feel the negative fandom, and
Yeah, it looks
they're
like
all like, "See, you see," and I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's. I love that he's being honest. I mean, I think genuinely he would have wanted a scene like that, but of course, I mean, there's money involved, scheduling, actors. And
Harrison Ford not wanting anything to do with Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, you can't have it all.
Yeah, you can't.
I mean,
and
you just have to realize that.
And I remember when I first saw that teaser trailer to The Force Awakens, and you see the Falcon, I was like, man, Leia, Luke, and Han are in that thing. Like, that's the best. Then you watch the movie, you're like, well, I was completely wrong. And then the more you go, the more you're like, oh, of course, because you can't just be like, and they're back in the cockpit, here they go again. I don't know. Like, I love Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill, of course, is Luke Skywalker. He'll always be Luke Skywalker. But it's like, man, Mark, you gotta calm down, because it's like he's fueling this negativity for Star Wars, and he just, and a lot of those, like you said, a lot of the fans who didn't like The Last Jedi are like, well, look what Mark Hamill said. This is what Mark Hamill said at the beginning, and they go off of that. It's like,
it's definitely prisoner of the moment type of time right now. We're in a time where we had The Last Jedi, and we're in between that movie and the last film. So once we see the last film, it's going to be like, okay, we have these three movies, which started out with Rey, Finn, and Poe, and once we see episode 9, we're going to look back on it, and we're like, okay, well, those were the new big three for that trilogy, and that's their trilogy. The original trilogy is what it is. Fans of the original trilogy loved it so much, they wanted that again, but really it couldn't be that again. I mean,
and Lucas,
you would just be like too nostalgic. I think that's the way we're going to see it. And then the next thing that happens, the people that are huge fans of the sequel trilogy, big fans of Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, they're going to want them, but it's probably going to be something different. Or it might not be, because it's going to be a totally different situation, because there's not going to be that long period of time where there's no films. And you hear reports that Kathleen Kennedy made that she's leaving it open to where we can still have Rey and Finn and Oscar Isaac still go on adventures, which I would love.
I would love to have that. Like I said, the three, they couldn't have cast them any better. I mean,
it was perfect casting.
It was just like casting, Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, and Carrie Fisher.
Casting's like 90% of making a film, they say.
And they got super lucky with these three. Yeah. And I remember listening to a film critic, and he said, a lot of people are gonna badmouth the Last Jedi. This is as soon as the Last Jedi came out. He goes, but 20 years from now, I want to hear what the kids are saying who grew up with all three of these films, like back to back to back, or the kids who like us who grew up with 4, 5, and 6 already being made, and it was like, oh man, look, all these movies are here. Look at the story. The story's complete. Like we know what's gonna happen in each one. Like what's gonna happen in it's gonna rain. Like years from now, when we show when I actually like show my kids for like 7, 8, and 9, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, that's the whole story. Like they're not gonna know about the whole break and the whole like the mess that was going on in between the films. We're gonna just be like, man, these movies were really, really great. So it's one of those things that I think social media and the fact that everyone now has a voice on the internet is really, really it really changed everything from then till now. And I'm just excited to see how kids will look at this trilogy in the future. And don't worry, the Star Wars Stuff podcast will still be here during the break of 2019 and 2022. Yeah,
definitely.
I mean, I was like, man, what are we going to talk about? But there's always
what are we going to talk about?
There's always Star Wars stuff to talk about. It's gonna be so much fun.
Always going to be stuff.
All right, anything else today? Or
I don't think so.
I think
want to thank everyone that's listening now from who listen on Stitcher, who listen on Spotify.
Yes, thank you.
And Apple, Apple Podcasts, and definitely give us a rating, 5-star on Apple, write us a review, and that definitely helps out the podcast.
Yes,
helps out with just about everything as far as like. Getting seen, advertising, future advertising, making merch. I know we've gotten a lot of requests for shirts and now maybe tumblers. I mean, that's...
I mean, I'm not going to lie, man. When you brought that and you showed me that cup and you came in, I was like, dude, I want that right now. That looks amazing.
I was figuring that you and Joseph were really going to want one, and Colin.
Well, let's, I'll give you some money so you can get that.
Yeah, and it's kind of... Do you think it's a Texas thing with tumblers? Because
I don't know. Maybe it is.
Yeah, because that's a big thing around here.
I didn't realize that stickers and patches were a big thing in Star Wars Celebration until we had stickers and patches.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, do you have any patches? We're like, yeah, okay, sure.
But buttons. If you don't have buttons, they're not legit.
Yes, if you don't have buttons, we have a funny... Well,
when are you going to have some? When do you have some buttons, James?
Oh, jeez. So one more story before we leave. So at Celebration, Joseph and I are walking around, and this girl gives us her pin and sticker and button, and we give her our... No, she all she wanted was a button. And a pin. Do you have a pin? We're like, no, we don't have any. What about tomorrow? You can have a pin? And Joseph was like, nope, we not gonna have any today or tomorrow or the next day. She goes, oh, and then she walked away. We're like, what was that all about, man? And so anyway, at Celebration next year, we will have pins and we will have
then I was texting you guys, so what kind of merch should we have for next Celebration? And Joseph's like, definitely buttons.
Definitely buttons. We need buttons, man, because I don't want to disappoint anybody. But man, yeah, I can't wait for next Celebration, man. It's gonna be awesome. We're gonna come well prepared. We're gonna have shirts. We're gonna have buttons, pins, stickers, tumblers. I'm just kidding. We're just gonna walk around with a giant suitcase full of stuff and give it to people.
Big old pink suitcase. Yeah.
Well, thank y'all very much for listening. Be sure to check us out on Facebook, Instagram. If you want to donate to our podcast, we got the link down there at the bottom for you. Again, thank you so much for listening and watching us, and we'll be back next week with another awesome topic. May the Force be with you.
Always.
It's a trap!